Hi, everybody. I am so sorry that you're getting this video instead of the live session that was recorded. I lost the recordings because I'm having so many computer issues lately. So I'm going to redo this and just go through a condensed version of what you need to know. Now, on my IoT, there is this study guide. It's got a whole lot happening. Just know that all of these definitions up top are all index cards from previous lessons. So if you are one of the people that is still watching the videos, amazing. You're going to rock this test. Okay, I did a little note card of things that are on the midterm that you will need to know. So I'm just going to go over that really quickly. All right. Things you will need to know. You will need to know the difference between conditional versus unconditional stimulus. So when you are learning about little Albert, he will be brought up a few times on this test. If you learn about little Albert, you need to know what is the conditioned stimulus and what is the unconditioned stimulus. You will need to know the psychological perspectives. So if you watched that PowerPoint, it was like this weird clover looking little shape that had 7 different, maybe 9 different little branches, and it talked about each different kind of perspective. So that's behaviorist, sociocultural, eclectic, etc., etc. It is in a chart nicely in the end of chapter 1. If you go to like the blue pages that have all the charts and stuff like that, go there, look at that chart, make sure you know what all of those are. You will need to know research methods. So please know the difference between experiment, which is a casual kind of research, case study, which is specific and has to do with usually one person, maybe a few people. You will need to know correlation and how you can find correlation. You can look in the glossary in the back of the book for definitions for these things to kind of help you. I would definitely Google a YouTube on correlation studies and things like that to understand it further. You will need to know the scientific method and, more importantly, what is not part of the scientific method. Okay. You'll need to know dream theories. You'll mostly need to know about the threat simulation theory. You'll need to know about continuity and different memory theories also. So remember, with dream theories, there was like Freud, who said everything means something in your dream. It all has a hidden meaning. And then the threat simulation supposed that our dreams are preparing us to know how to act in case of dangerous situations. And then there's a theory that is like dreams are random and meaningless. They have no meaning, they never will. You will need to know parts of neurons, what they do, what they look like, how they work. So specifically, dendrites, myelin, axons. You'll need to know receptors and which ones are the givers and which ones are the receivers. So please study that. There's great pictures in the book, or if you want, there's awesome videos posted. Nobody's watching them anymore, but they're really good. You will need to know the central nervous system, which is your spinal cord and your brain. You will need to know your peripheral nervous system, which is everything else, right? So know the difference between those two. Then you also will need to know the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. And you'll need to know the autonomic and somatic nervous systems and kind of what they control. And know when you are afraid or something makes a loud noise, which one do you use? That's important to know. When you're getting a massage, which part of the nervous system do you use? All right, you will need to know about the eye. Almost everybody missed something on a test about the retina. So please know the parts of the eye and also know about the color theory. The color theory, or the theory of color rather, talks a lot about your cones and rods. Please make sure that you really have that down so you know what's up with that. You'll need to know parts of the ear. So your auditory system, it'll talk about like the hammer, the stirrup, the cochlear, all of that. You will need to know the Gestalt principles of perception. So I posted a video about this where it's literally just a video of Gestalt theory. And this was on a test very recently. Please, what you'll have to identify is what does not belong, but you can only do that by knowing what does belong. So please know what belongs in the Gestalt theory. You'll need to know the Whorfian hypothesis. That's from this week's reading. So that has to do with how languages affect perception. So that's how some different cultures now think differently than others because of where they're from and what language they speak. You will need to know the difference between stimulants, depressants, opiates, hallucinogens. You will need to know about withdrawal intolerance. You will need to know all about hypnosis and what it's good for, what it's not good for. We talked about it being excellent for pain management for chronic pain sufferers, and it's really great for cessation of stopping, smoking or overeating, things like that. It can help with addictions to a point. It cannot make you do anything that is against your own moral character. And it also cannot usually get to like repressed memories, at least not accurately. So really it is just a tool that can be used, a superficial tool at that, that can be used to help with pain and addictions, and that's about it. You will need to know different types of long-term memory. So we talked about that this week, or last week rather, I'm sorry. So you'll need to know the difference between procedural and declarative. And then within those, remember there is episodic and semantic as well. So you'll need to remember all of that stuff. Put that in your long-term memory. You're going to need to know the difference between classical conditioning and operant conditioning. And now I have posted so many videos about these things. Please watch them. This is the hardest thing that we talked about, I think, during the original midterm study session that I lost. You will need to know the difference between positive and negative punishment and positive and negative reinforcement. So they all have to do with conditioning, and it's either giving something or taking something away in order to change a behavior or fix a behavior or save a behavior. So please make sure that you know the difference between positive or negative punishment and positive or negative reinforcement. You will need to know the three-stage memory model. So remember that sensory memory, short-term memory, long-term memory. And it always goes in that order. And you'll also need to know then working memory model, which is kind of from sensory memory to long-term memory. Skip the short term, and it's always like constantly happening back and forth, back and forth. So you'll need to know that. And you'll need to know who the father of psychology is. He, of course, is Wilhelm Wundt. And why is he the father of psychology? Well, he created the first ever psychology lab and thought, oh, wow, what a great idea to study psychology. He was the very first one that did that. Please remember about the 4 stages of REM sleep. You'll need to know about microsleep and circadian rhythm, sleep disorders. Nobody had watched the videos that I posted, but there is one that a girl with narcolepsy posted. And she's got narcolepsy and cataplexy, and it's really cool to watch. She's like teaching a dance to someone, and just in the middle of nowhere, she has an episode of both narcolepsy and cataplexy, and you could see examples of microsleep as well. It's really interesting, very fascinating. There are some videos about hypnosis too that are awesome, I think. There's like a Big Bang Theory episode video posted that deals with classical versus operant conditioning. And there's some retrograde versus anterograde amnesia videos. I know that the videos are not super popular. We went from like 75 views of the very first few videos, and now we're at like 11. I post them for a reason. Every single note card that I talk about in those videos is guaranteed on the midterms. So if you go back this weekend, all of the videos are still there. And even if you just write down the note cards, then you're ahead of the game. Now, remember, this is an open book test. So you can flag down all the pages that you want. You can use the glossary to look up things instead of like the old-fashioned slow way that I was doing earlier. And usually information in charts and pictures are on the test, so make sure that you pay attention to those too. If you have any questions, please let me know. I will be available to you all weekend. Your test doesn't start until Wednesday, so you've got about 5 days of extra studying there. Plus, it's an open book test, so really everybody should do really well. Email me for anything, and good luck.